Awesome. All right, well, let's get started. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm JB Slimp and Director of Texas Blaze, and super excited to be on this webinar tonight. And so again, thank everybody for being here. I want to thank first I want to thank Becky, who is our moderator, and she's the one that kind of organized this and some of our other Zoom call and webinar events. So Becky Bliss is our San Antonio area director and wears a lot of hats in the Blaze, and does a good job setting stuff like this up. So I want to thank her for being here. She's going to help me with making sure if we get some questions that they don't slip through the cracks and all that kind of good stuff. And then our panelists tonight, the ones that you guys I know are here to see, are three amazing athletes that all happen to play on the same Blaze team. They all play on Texas Blaze 18 United. And I think I will let each one of them just say hello real quick, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. You guys want to say hello?
Hi, I'm Townsen Thomas.
Hey, I'm Rylee Slimp.
Hey, I'm Madalyn Strader.
So why these three? The reason why I picked these three for this webinar is because obviously we're talking about triple threat offense and we're talking about Lefty Specialist. But the thing that's really cool about these three particular players is they each have a very unique style lefty game. They're very different from each other. And I thought it would be really neat for us to see the kind of the contrast between the three different styles of the lefty games that are represented on this webinar. As a coach, I'll kind of give you some of my insight to what I see with their games. And then as we get into the questions and going through this, you guys will learn a lot about them as well. But as far as from a coaching perspective and what I see, I'll start with Madalyn. So Mad Strader, she is what I would consider the prototype slapper, in the classic sense of she has a very good short game. She bunts the ball well, but she also slaps the ball and she swings away. So she does a lot of different things throughout the game, and would be, I would think, considered like your classic slapper style lefty specialist. And then with Rylee, Rylee started off kind of in that vein of a classic lefty slapper, but has moved more into just swinging away. So she swings away probably 95% of the time, and has moved more into more of a power game on the left side. And then with Townsen, I think she fits right in the middle. She does a lot of short ball in her game, but she also swings away and hits dingers. So I think that you have, the full spectrum of what lefties can do, with these three athletes. So yeah, so from a coaching perspective, that's kind of my thoughts on them. So what we're going to do tonight is I've got some questions that I'm going to ask them. What I'm hoping that you guys get from this as the participants or as the attendees is you learn a little bit about what it's like to be on the left side. And also, if you guys have questions about, if you're young and you're thinking about getting on the left side, or if you're already on the left side and you have questions, we really want you guys to participate. So if you can think of some things that you want to ask as we go, please post those. This should be kind of a short and sweet. I would expect this to last 30 to 40 minutes, just kind of depending on how some of the Q&A goes. So with that being said, we will start directly in with some questions that I kind of put together that I'm going to present to the girls, and then each one of them will have a chance to kind of answer it and talk about their approach or perspective to answering that question. Okay, so the first question is, learning a little bit about you guys. Were you ever a right-handed hitter? And if so, when did you move over to the left side, and why did you move over to the left side? So that's going to be our first question, and I'm going to start with Townsen.
Yes, so I was a right-handed batter until I was about 7. And then when I was 7, I started to become like a switch hitter. So I was a switch hitter for about a year and a half to 2 years. Then I became fully lefty, mainly because my coaches and my dad were like, "You're really fast. We should put you on the left side, see how you do." And it just kind of stuck.
Awesome. Okay. Rylee?
Yeah, so I started hitting on the right side as well. And then like I kind of started switch hitting a little bit and like fully moved over to the left side in 12U. Mostly just because like I loved like the idea of being able to do multiple things like as a slapper and like all the options that it gave you. And yeah.
Awesome. And Madalyn?
So I was a right-handed hitter for a while. I like tried slapping once and then I didn't do it. And then about 3 years ago, a coach wanted to see how I do, and so I went over to the left side and kind of stuck. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, my next question is, what do you most enjoy now in the present about being on the left side offensively? And I will start with Mads on this one.
I like the options. There's so many different options on the left side. You can do so many different things. And I enjoy getting to like read the defense and figure out what might they do, like what will they do if I do this, and if I do this, what happens, just kind of playing with it a little bit. Like it's fun to kind of mess around and see like what I could get away with almost with the different tools and like different options. So
Okay, great. Rylee, I'll go to you. The question being, what do you most enjoy now about being on the left side offensively?
I like being able to use my speed more on the left side. I feel like putting down bunts and everything is a lot. Like I'm able to use like being a quick person out of the box. And then also I kind of like the surprise you are to the defense. Like they don't know if you're gonna slap or if you're gonna hit. So it makes it a little trickier and it's kind of like a game to like who's gonna beat who out. So
Yeah, nice. Okay. And then T.
Yeah, I agree with them. There's a lot of different options that you don't have on the right side. And it's kind of like an advantage just because the batter's box is a little closer to first. So that's another plus.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so my next question, kind of along that line, is when you guys get up to an at bat, what type of things do you consider about the defense and the types of things that you're thinking before you get up for that at bat? I will start with I'll start with Rylee this time.
when I get up to bat, I like to look for where the base runners are first. Like if there's a runner at first, then I'll look to like if they're probably gonna steal, I'll look to fake bunt or like try to get them to second, move them in like the easiest way, like the defense tells me to. And then I also like to look at the outfield and the shifts that they like to do on left-handed batters. Like if the pitcher is pitching all outside, you'll see the outfield shift to left field. And then I'll know that like my bat, like my bat barrel path is going to need to be more where I can go oppo with the ball for the outside pitch. So
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. T.
Yeah, I agree. I also like paying attention to the pitcher. So just making sure I watch the pitcher and determine whether if there's somebody ahead of me and they're lefty, I can see if the pitcher's throwing them in or out. So maybe I can look for in and out too, so I know where to set up. Same with reading the defense and reading if the corners are close or not.
Okay, awesome. Madalyn.
yeah, I like definitely watching the pitcher and stuff. And then I like personally always look to the third baseman first, just like sort of out of habit, like how far are they off the line or how close are they, and just kind of reading like the gaps and like where there's space on the field and like whether or not like where the runners are. Like if there's runners in front of me, like what do I need to do to move them or create the best option to try to get them in. So like just reading the gaps in the field, the space.
So all of you guys mentioned watching the pitcher. So what type of information are you trying to get when you're watching the pitcher? You know, specifically, what are you trying to get? The information that it is that you're trying to get from them. Any one of the three of you guys could answer that first. Just jump in.
I think that like, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think like if the pitcher is right-handed or left-handed, because definitely if you get a left-handed pitcher, you're more likely to see inside. And so then you can use that for your game plan. Like maybe I'll try to pull the ball more. Like if there's a runner on third, I'm looking for like an inside pitch. Or so yeah. I think like if the pitcher is right-handed or left-handed can give you a lot of information.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to look at like how they just their windup in general, like for timing, because a lot of pitchers have different windups. So like just kind of get their like how they pitch the ball, I guess, like how they get to pitching the ball, because that's a lot with timing, especially like slapping and stuff. So yeah.
So with that, Matt, so you say like the windup and the way that the pitchers move and the differences in the way they move, how might that make you adjust? Like if you see a certain type of windup, how might that, you know, change your thought or your timing?
I try to focus on like like if it's a really like there's some pitchers with definitely like strange windups, I guess. And so focusing on one thing that can like one cue that helps me like, okay, this is when I'm gonna start. Like depending on the speed of their pitch and everything too, but like not getting so overwhelmed with like it looks a little different, but rather than like how like coming out of the hip, I guess. Like so just trying to focus on one thing that doesn't make me get confused with like their windup, I guess.
No, I think that's a good point. So I think what you're saying there is like, don't let all the different styles distract you. Try to find something simple. And especially if you have kind of an unorthodox pitcher that does have a weird windup, sometimes that can be a distraction, you know, and what you're kind of saying, I think, is you don't want that to affect, you know, so you're going to, you know, try to simplify things and maybe find that release point or whatever, so that that weird windup or whatever is not really a distraction for you, right? Good stuff. And T, you know, so when you're, well, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, watching the windup, sometimes some pitchers may slow down their windup also. So if, like you see a pitcher like slowing down their windup, you can probably most for sure be seeing a slower pitch. So that also kind of helps just a little bit.
So if you know you have a pitcher who's throwing slower, or you can kind of pick off their changeup, how might that change your approach, or does it change your approach with your footwork or anything that you do, if you know you've got a really good off-speed pitcher?
For footwork, I wouldn't really change anything other than just starting at like a half a second later. But it would just mainly be about not totally swinging through my swing, or just like either placing a bunt or just punching the ball to just place the ball, making sure that I have good contact on that slower pitch.
Gotcha. So kind of along the same lines, Rylee, as somebody who stands in and hits a lot, if you have a pitcher that you know has a really good off speed, and can throw it for strikes, how might that change your approach or what you're thinking about?
I think like T said, like a bunt would be a good option for that, just because the ball would die so much better like with a slower pitch. So you can always look for that. And then just like hitting, I think really like focusing on your load and like having like a slow start and like a slow load to your swing can help you hold on the changeup. And then yeah, just like looking for it early. And then if that's not what you're looking for, then just like knowing that once you have 2 strikes, like just slowing your swing down and like being late on the fastball and making sure you time up the changeup.
Okay, awesome. And since we're kind of talking about dealing with off-speed pitching and changeups, Mads, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I agree with both of them. Like I guess with footwork, like slapping, there's not a lot you can do except like make sure to kind of be a little later and, make sure to have contact with the ball. So I agree with both of them on that. Like it, yeah.
Awesome. So I'm not seeing any questions yet, Becky, are you? So for you guys who are attending, I've got a few more questions, but we really need you guys to engage in some questions. So please, put something in the chat box or the Q&A box. I don't really know what it looks like on the attendee side. Unfortunately, I assume you have a box there that you can put something in. If you're on this webinar and you don't see a place to be able to put anything in, maybe send me a text if you have my number personally, so we can try to troubleshoot it. Or if you have my number, maybe shoot me a text and say there is somewhere to put it, so that, because like on our end, I can't really tell what you guys are seeing, so I'm not seeing where that chat or question box is. So if somebody could confirm with me or let me know that you guys do have that option to send in a question, that would be fantastic. And there's a little thing that popped up in mine, Becky, that says lower all attendees' hands. So that's kind of interesting. I assume that has something to do with questions. We did get a question that just came through. I'm going to get to that one in a second. I got one that that we got previous to this that I want to get to you guys. I think this is a great question. Someone asked, when you're down 0-2 in the count, do you stick with slapping or do you hit away, or what might be your change in your approach when you're down 0-2? I'm going to start with Mads on this one.
For me, it depends. Like if I'm seeing the ball really well and like feel good about slapping, I most likely would stick with that. But if I feel like I'm not seeing the ball well and I just like need to make contact or something, and I can't see the ball well slapping, I would hit away. But it also depends like on the runners and the situation, I guess. Like just what I need to do with the ball. Because if there's like a runner on second or third or something, I don't need to hit a like ground ball to the left side, I guess. So
Right.
just kind of depends on like the situation for me.
Yeah, awesome. So again, down 0-2 in the count. Do you stick with slapping or hitting away, Townsen, or does your approach change, or what is your approach?
Yeah, I agree with Mads. Honestly, it's just how I'm feeling that day. Sometimes one game I might be more comfortable with slapping in the 0-2 count, or sometimes I might be more comfortable swinging away. Just regarding if I want to, place it or hit for power or whatever it may be. And also knowing the pitcher, like if it's later in the game and like you constantly see like a trend for 0-2 pitches, like if like say a lefty's up, they're trying to get you out in front to try and get you to swing off balance, they might throw a changeup. So also knowing what the pitcher might throw can also affect if I slap or swing away.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Rylee, as the one in the group who swings away the most, when you're down and you have 2 strikes in a count, what is your thought process?
Yeah, I think for me, because I don't really slap and I just swing away, it's more like they said, it's a lot about how I'm feeling and like what I want my approach to be with the pitcher and how I'm connecting with the pitcher. So like if I feel like I'm connecting really good and all my timing is there, I'll stick with the same swing and just focus on like contact with the pitch and less on power. But if I feel like my timing is off or my balance is off, then I'll take out my stride and I'll have my feet tight on the line to make sure that I can reach outside pitch and like reach any pitch that the pitcher gives me, and also just focus on contact. So
Awesome. All right, great answers, guys. All right, we got some questions. Becky, do you see them too?
Yes.
So I'm going to go through one of these questions that just came up, and then I've got some other questions that were sent in earlier too, so I'll get to those in a second. I want to address this first one here. Somebody asked, at what age should you begin teaching slap hitting, or I guess as a athlete, when should you begin? So that's a great question. I think you begin whenever it makes sense. I mean, I don't think it's ever too early to begin. But at the same time, I also don't think it's ever too late to begin, for the most part, within reasons, depending on what your goal is. Because I do hear sometimes with parents or coaches that they feel like it's too late for an athlete to move over to the left. You know, maybe they're already approaching high school and it's like, well, you know, my kid's already in high school, so it's too late, you know, and that I definitely don't agree with. I think it all depends on how committed the athlete is to getting through that transition of going to the left, because it is frustrating for a while, as you're trying to figure it out. But I don't think, you know, I'll give you a couple examples first, you know, starting with Mads here on this webinar. Mads, how old are you right now?
I'm 16 right now.
So you're 16 and you started, but you didn't start till you're like 13 then, right?
Yes, sir.
Slapping?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so somewhere, so that's pretty late, I would think, for most people thinking, okay, but she didn't start till she was like 13, and now she's an elite slapper, you know, and going to play at the Division I level as a slapper. So 13 is certainly not too late. And I got one that's even later than that. We had a kid in the Blaze who went to the University of Texas, and she didn't start slapping until the end of her junior year in high school. No, I'm sorry, the end of her sophomore year in high school. So she actually was a right-handed hitter for her first 2 years of high school, and then was a slapper for her second 2 years of high school, ended up going to the University of Texas and being a slapper. So you're talking about a kid that really didn't commit to it until halfway through high school, and she ended up, you know, playing in the Big 12 at Texas as a slapper. So I think those are a couple of examples of, don't really think about it being too late, just how committed you are to it. And then on the flip side of that, on, you know, asking about how early, again, I don't think you could ever start too early being on the left side. Matter of fact, if you have a young kid who's just beginning the game, I would always suggest trying some things on the left side to see if it feels good for them, because there's a lot of stock and left-handed slappers and hitters in the college game. So yeah, that's my thought on that. And let's see, let me get to this question, because I think this is a good one. Somebody asked how to incorporate your hips better in your swing. So I'm going to start with T on this one.
Okay. I would say knowing like that your hips aren't always going to stay the same, whether you're slapping or swinging away. Because I would say more when you're swinging away is probably going to be a more consistent like rhythm with your hips, and just making sure that you're snapping your hips in a timely manner. And then for slapping, you know, it just depends on the pitch. Like it can change from pitch to pitch, at bat to at bat. It's just it kind of just is constantly going. So you just have to make sure you're not turning your hips too soon, because then that could throw your whole slap off.
Okay, nice. Rylee, you want to answer that, as you know, about what you think about when incorporating your hips in your swing style?
Yeah. So I think, like Townsend said, like your hips can really change from like depending what pitch you get. And so like me personally as a hitter, I over rotate my hips sometimes, or I just use my hips a lot in my swing. And so I think thinking about like, say, an outside pitch, like thinking about keeping my hips in so that I'm not over rotating on the ball and like trying to pull an outside pitch when I should be taking it, you know, opposite field. And then like vice versa, when I'm getting an inside pitch and I'm trying to get my bat there early, maybe like focusing on rotating my hips more, or like firing my hips before my barrel to make sure I get out front of the ball and like I'm pulling it. So.
Very nice. Okay, Mads, same question.
Yeah, I agree with both of them. And like slapping for me, like to start, like I guess the steps of my slapping, I focus on my hips and how they move forward, but like without like opening them up too soon, because then it's really hard to like have any control. So like kind of keeping your hips like from a slapping perspective of almost like closed off until like depending on timing, like when you hit the ball almost. Like, because when I know for a while I struggled with like my hips would open up so much that I had no control. Like I was just throwing the bat out there hoping it would hit the ball. But like once I am able to like control my hips, I kind of get like I am able to stay over the plate more, see the ball better. So
Very nice. Okay, great. Okay. Next question is, which I think, has some similarities, but it's a little bit different. So working, how do you guys think about timing of the pitch from the left side, staying close and not opening too soon? I'll just go right back to Mads on that.
for my timing, like one, like the pitcher, like watching the pitcher and stuff. But I always think about like for me, a good cue is like holding the ground. So like I rush a lot when I slap, and I get going like my feet will go so fast, like I'm not in control. So not like slowing my feet down, but like controlling it and controlling my step. And so I like to think of like holding the ground, and like I sometimes will like count. So like count like 1, 2, 3 based on trying to time the pitcher and stuff.
So when you say you count, like what is that count doing for you?
It lets like my mind kind of focus on like the steps, like 1, 2, 3, and not get so overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. Like, so just it's like a mind thing for me, like slowing my mind down and letting my mind like allow my body to do what I want it to do almost.
Right. So almost like just getting your thoughts focused in the right place on the things that you can control, and not letting your mind get too all over the place, because everything that an at bat brings.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so timing of the pitch on the left side. So Rylee, as somebody who again swings away a lot, what are some of the things that you think about from a timing perspective on the left side?
Yeah, I think swinging, like the timing is very different from slapping. And so I like to, something that helps me is like matching my rhythm with the pitchers, or like my timing with the pitchers. Cause I feel like usually when I get behind or like way ahead of the ball, I'm like out of sync. And so I like to like match my movement with the pitcher. So it gives me sort of like a rhythm to my swing, and I like feel comfortable. And then I also like to think about like loading my back hip and like going towards the catcher when I'm loading, and bringing my front shoulder down. So those are things that help me with my movement.
Gotcha. So if you don't mind, expand a little bit. So when you say, trying to match your timing or match your movements with the pitcher, or try to get in sync, what are some of the cues that you try to work on to do that?
I like to, before I step in the box, just like knowing a pitcher's windup and like a pitcher's rhythm. And I always kind of have like a spot. Like for me, it's when the pitcher is on the mound and like she's going down with her ball. And that's when I like to start my swing. And I feel like just like knowing what spot or what, like spot in the pitcher's windup you want to start that makes you feel comfortable. So just knowing that, and then knowing that each pitcher is different and each windup is different. And so like definitely getting your timing down ahead before you get into the box, like in the circle, and just studying. So
Okay, cool. And T?
Yeah, watching the pitcher and paying attention to their movements are a very big thing also for me. And I just really watch really close attention, pay attention to whether the pitcher maybe slows down their windup, or I don't know, moves over a little bit on the mound. That could also affect where the ball may go, or it could also mean that they're trying to throw it a little bit harder or slower. So
Awesome. Amazing answers, guys. So good. Okay, so we've got a few more questions that have come in during this webinar, so hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me take a look here. I think this would be a good one. Keep this one, just think of this, try to keep this as simple as possible. But it says, somebody asked, what would you recommend for someone new on the left side from a drill perspective? Like, what would be a good style drill for somebody who's new to left side slapping? Who wants to start? Or who wants to add something to that? You have a drill?
So I call it like the stop and pop drill. So
Okay.
it's basically like when you're in your slapping motion, it's just you crossing over and you stop right on your crossover and you just really sit into your hips and really just work on, being in that position with your hips and with your hands just to punch the ball really.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. And I think when you're in that position, you can do a lot of things, right? Because you can, you're in that position, you can work on your barrel control, you can work on your placement and those sort of things. So yeah, I see that one quite a bit with slappers. Mads, you want to add anything to, a good drill for somebody who's just getting started?
Yeah, I like that one too. Like even me doing it, like just to get back into the rhythm, and like you could build on top of it. So like once you do that, I like to like walk through and then stop and then hit it. And so like kind of just if you break it down, like just work on walking through first and then add the hands and then kind of like slowly build on top of it.
Yeah, nice. So Rylee, there's a drill that I see you do sometimes when you first start off your getting warmed up and stuff, and you do it with one hand. So can you explain kind of your one hand bunting drill that you kind of do to get started when you're getting warmed up?
Yeah, so actually I did get this from Strader because I know she does this too, because we both got it from the same like slapping coach that we had. But yeah, I like to when I start off like my front toss or like when I start hitting, I always like to like work on just bunting just like with one hand with like that left top hand. And I think it really just like strengthens because you want like a lot of control when you're bunting. So you can control like where the ball goes, what you want it to do, and like how hard you want it to come off the bat. And I think just like working on like isolating that hand just kind of helps you like gain control and like just work on that strength of like that you just need for bunting. So
Very nice. Y'all are killing it, ladies. That was good stuff. Okay, so I had a question. Someone asked, is there a certain target or a spot that you usually try to hit or slap to? Anybody can jump in first and then we'll go around. So the question again, is there a certain target or spot you usually try to hit or slap to?
Okay, so for me, usually, well, if I'm in a cage, I would just try and like say that there's like a cage with like 4 poles, right? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd usually just try and work on hitting that back left pole to the one across from me, and I just really work on that, just try and make sure I hit everything over there. And that would kind of simulate like in the gap between left foot and center. So
Okay, I like it. Mads, Rylee, either one of y'all?
I agree with that. Like definitely that back kind of like towards left center, like gap, and like just I guess left side in general, but like in between the gaps. So not like I'm gonna hit it to the shortstop, but like maybe middle more, or like down the line. Just those 2 spots I really like. So.
And Rylee, anything to add to that?
yeah, I agree with like when Strader says to work on different gaps because I feel like depending on what pitch you get, you can really like take control and like maybe not just focusing on like hitting it to the shortstop or like that 5-6 hole every time, but like if you get an inside pitch, like working on slapping down to right field too, like that area, and like because that can be useful like when you have a runner at second or a runner at third and you're really just trying to like move them across the bases. So just working on slapping like in every hole, every open spot on the field. So.
Yeah, I think, with three of you, kind of a common theme here, but I think, one of the things that's incredibly important as a lefty specialist is barrel control, right? Being able to put the ball where you want to put it. And that's, easier. That's not easy to do. But I think in a training environment, kind of like what you were saying, T, you need to be able to put the ball where you want to put it. And you need to get really good at being able to manipulate and have amazing barrel control and be able to, hit the ball to anywhere that you want to hit it. And I think that just developing your barrel control overall is super important, and being able to, pick lots of different targets to work on. So really good question. Let me see here. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. Are there pitches that are more difficult to hit for you when slapping versus hitting away? So a certain type of pitch that is harder to deal with as a slapper versus when you're hitting.
For me, like for both is high and in. I do not like that pitch ever. Especially like slapping, I have trouble like getting my hands there in time. Like it's difficult for me to get my hands there. A lot of people like will be like outside, but like a lot of pitchers throw outside to slappers, so it's like you kind of get used to it over a little. Like it's still annoying, I guess, sometimes, but you kind of get used to it. So I'd say high and in for me.
Gotcha. So Rylee, are there pitches that are more difficult for you to hit? Regardless, maybe even, again, as somebody who swings away most of the time, do you have certain pitches that are just tougher for you to deal with?
Agreeing with what Strader said, when I used to slap, it was hard to like, I think, get my barrel there, like with my footwork too. But now swinging, I say outside's probably like one of the toughest pitches to hit for me, even though like we do get it pitched so often. But I feel like that's why I have gotten better at it, because like that's just constantly what lefties are pitched. And so you kind of like have to learn how to, take that oppo. And so, and then I'd say high pitches too, just because it's definitely hard to like flatten out your barrel and then also be able to drive it. So yeah, I'd say outside.
Very cool. T, want to throw anything in there?
Yeah, so kind of like Strader, but like, so yeah, for like slapping, high and in is probably my toughest pitch. But when I'm swinging away, that is my favorite pitch. Like I love high and in when I'm swinging away. Like that is my pitch though. So, but yeah, slapping, not too well.
Awesome. Some great questions. Okay, we got time for a few more. Let's see. Here's one. Do y'all change what tools you use pitch to pitch, or stick with your original plan that you started with? Anybody can jump in on that. Do y'all change the tools pitch to pitch, or stick with what you originally started with game plan wise?
I would say it just completely depends on the situation, just how the game's going. It also depends. Yeah, it just depends on the game.
Anybody else want to add anything to that?
I agree. It definitely depends. Like, so if I usually go up with like several things. Like if this doesn't work, like I want to try this. A lot of the times, like bunting, if I like want to bunt and then like the corners like crash really hard, then I would change my stuff and like maybe like fake bunt slap or something, like try and get it by him. So I think it depends on just kind of reading what the defense is giving you, like pitch to pitch, because they change pitch to pitch. So
Yeah. So Rylee, with you, what might be something that makes you change completely your game plan? Like maybe you're going up there looking to swing away, but all of a sudden you decide, you know what, I'm going to short game here, or vice versa. What are some things that might that make you want to change your tools in the middle of an at bat? Or do you know, or you just kind of stick with the plan?
I think, yeah, when I'm hitting and I'm looking to bunt, like I'm definitely looking for like how much space the third baseman is giving me. And like, definitely if there's a runner on, like bunting would be more of a possibility just because like the whole goal is to move that runner. It's not really about you at that point. And then I think changing my game plan pitch to pitch, like seeing maybe if like after I show bunt first time and maybe like that doesn't work out, seeing like if that third baseman starts to crash like really hard or like she's up in my face at that point, like moving to something more powerful and maybe like trying to get it by her at that point or just into the outfield. And then also changing like from at bat to at bat, like if I'd bunted my last at bat, knowing that maybe the infield would be like a little more up in my face, like my next at bat, like moving to something more powerful. So I think, yeah, it really just depends on like pitch to pitch, at bat to bat, like just reading the defense.
Good stuff. All right, we got a bunch here. I'm not gonna be able to get to them. We went from having none to having like a ton.
JB, I scroll down a little bit and have a good one that I think will help coaches and kids.
Okay.
You guys both slap in, hit away. How do you split your time in batting practice if you're getting the same amount of cuts as just kids that hit away?
This is a good question. So in batting practice, you have limited reps like everybody. So how do you kind of decide what you're going to work on and split that up between, because all three of you swing away, all three of you do bunt. So how do you kind of determine what you're going to work on? Go ahead, Mads.
It kind of just depends on like, I guess what I think I need to work on in the moment, like maybe from tournament to tournament or like just throughout the week. If I worked on this one day, then I might work on, like if I worked on slapping a lot one day and I did all that, then I might do hitting away more. So I think it like kind of depends on like what you're feeling. For a while, like I was trying to get better at hitting away because I was uncomfortable with it. So I spent most of my time doing that and I would slap like every now and then. But like as I'm getting more comfortable with it, I like try and split it more,
Yeah,
and just kind of, work through all of them at, whatever you're feeling like. I need to work on this today and tomorrow I'll work on the other one. So
awesome. I think for the sake of time, what I'd like to do is I have two other really good questions. I'm just going to give one to T and one to Rylee. That was great, Mads, on that. So Rylee, I'm going to give this one to you. Somebody asked, do you find it easier hitting off righties or lefties and why?
I think it completely depends on the pitcher, but I'd say for me, sometimes I feel a little crammed with lefties just because like with where their arm is and like compared to you in the box, they tend to like jam you inside a little bit, or it's just a little awkward when they're throwing outside because they have to like push it all the way to the other side of the plate. So I'd say I do like hitting off of righties more, and just because like you do see right-handed pitchers like more often than you see left-handed pitchers, you definitely get used to it. And so it can be a little uncomfortable seeing like a left-handed pitcher, but I think if you do like just knowing you're probably going to be getting like more inside pitches and just really trying to get more out in front on the ball. So.
Okay, great. So Townsen, here's a question for you. What adjustments do you make when there's faster pitching? So let's assume that the pitching is really fast, like more, faster than what we're used to. What kind of adjustments might you make?
So I actually tend to like faster pitching, like more than slower pitching. So it kind of makes me more comfortable with whatever I may want to do. So I might be more open to more options, versus a faster pitcher than I would a slower pitcher, because on a slower pitcher, I feel like I would work on some stuff that I don't think I could have worked on with a faster pitcher. So.
Gotcha. Becky, you want to pick a question? We've got about 10 minutes. So
This
you want
one
to pick a question that you think all three could answer?
JB, while they look, do you want to answer? We had a coach ask, some of the best places in your lineup to use your speed and balance that out would be a good one for you.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think, typically, there's, several different ways you can look at it, but I think, starting with the ones that are most obvious, it's going to depend on how many speed lefty specialists you have in your lineup. But let's say that you're heavy, you have a lot, like 18 United has a lot of lefty speed kids. So typically your leadoff is going to be one. In that situation, if you've got 3 to 4 fast lefties, then I'm usually going to put one in the leadoff and one in the 2 hole. And then depending on whether we're hitting 9 or 10 hitters, because I think if you're hitting 9 hitters, you could put one. I always like to think of a second leadoff as the 7 hole. Statistically, a lot of times the 7 hole will lead off in the 3rd inning or in later innings. So I think having a leadoff style person in the 7 hole can be a good place to put one. And then I think depending on how many you have on the front side of the lineup, the 9 or 10 hole, depending how many you're hitting. If I had, like in a situation where I had, let's say, Mads and T are both in the 1 and 2 hole, I probably wouldn't put one in the 10 hole. Having 3 in a row, I'd probably divide them up. But let's say I only had one of them in the 1 or 2 hole, then I probably would put somebody in the last one. So kind of boiling that down, your leadoff is a good place. Middle of the lineup in the 6 or 7, depending how many you're hitting, can be kind of a second leadoff. And then having somebody at the very end of the lineup that can serve as kind of a leadoff before the leadoff. I think those are all good places to put a lefty. Speed kid. All right, Becky. Do you have one that you wanted all 3 of them? I do have one that came up that's really good. I'll ask for all 3 of you guys. Well, yeah, so whoever wants to answer, but what are your thoughts on the out of the box rule for slappers? I feel like this is going to be a obvious answers, but what are your thoughts on the out of the rule box for slappers?
Well, for me, usually I lead off the game. So I know we have a lot of lefties on the team. So I'm gonna go up there and, maybe scratch out the line a little bit. Just so the umpires, it's a little harder for the umpires to read if they're going over the line or not. But I personally don't like the rule, just because righties can stand on the plate and they won't do anything about it.
Yeah. Mads or Rylee, I want to add to that.
I agree with her on that. Like righties definitely have a little more, I think, leeway with that. I worked a lot to make sure I was in the box, so I wasn't. And so it's like, that was really hard for me to make sure every time I'm in the box. And it's definitely kind of annoying sometimes, but is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. So from a training perspective, what are some things that you think about or you try to do to manage that? Like what might be something that you might think about training wise that helps you to deal with not being out of the box?
For me, like my first step, so I don't like pull my front foot back a lot. I kind of like pivot off of it. So when I pull my foot back a lot, like my hips swing open and then I have to go to the plate because that's like where my body's headed. Like I have to step on it, just because of how like the movement works. But like once you get it, like I had just a lot of repetition, over and over again, like focusing on if I do this, then my front foot has to go there. And so, yeah.
So I think it's pretty, it's interesting because as a coach, somebody who watches a lot, I mean, there's no doubt that lefties are picked on. I mean, the umpires are really, really tough on lefties. I've always thought that way from the dugout, just watching. But what's unique about high school is that I keep score. So I get to sit in the press box and I sit right behind the umpire. And it is unbelievable to me, the pitches that umpires call on the lefties. Like they will call balls easily 2 and 3 balls off the plate like it's nothing. Like that's just a common strike way off the plate. But on the righties, they don't call anything off the plate. So it's just really a weird, interesting dynamic on, I feel like, how umpires view lefties and trying to, I just feel like the zone expands on the left side quite a bit with lefties for whatever reason. And I think, when it comes to just my little thoughts on that rule is that I think the rule previous, I think, was better. I think the one right now is just too hard. I mean, the rule now is if you step on the white line at all. And I think that one is just too tough. I think they used to have it to where if your foot was out of the box or generally out of the box, they would call it. But I think that, some umpires just call it too much because like Mad said, it's very true. If I'm a righty, you'll never get an umpire to call a righty out of the box, even if they're literally have their toe over the white line, the umpire will never call it. So it's, again, it's kind of seems like it's a double standard sometimes with the lefties. Becky, do you have a good question that you see for all three of them?
I think I have two that we can roll together that might give it a good wrap. One of them is from someone that just started slapping last year. How long did it take you to get comfortable hitting away on the left side? And then roll that into what is your current favorite situation to hit in?
Okay, so the first part of that question, I'll start with Rylee on this one. So when you started slapping, how long do you feel like it took you to get comfortable with your swing part of your lefty game?
I think like just switching over, it can definitely be uncomfortable, just like with your footwork and everything. And I think I definitely got like a little more comfortable with my slapping than with my actual swinging on the left-hand side, just because like you have to work your footwork so much to like really get a rhythm that feels right for you. And then also like pairing that with barrel control, it's just really different on the left side. So I'd say, yeah, I definitely got a lot more comfortable with my slapping than my hitting once I first switched over. So
yeah, and somebody who obviously has been a part of Rylee's journey, I think that where I noticed her gravitating towards swinging away is when her power on her left side began to match or outdo what she was used to on the right side. Because I think in the beginning, when you first move over, the short game and the slapping, the power part isn't super important for that part of the game. So it's maybe you don't have a real comparison, but I think when you start swinging away on the left for kind of the first time, it feels awkward and your power goes way down. Like not many people can start off, going to the left side, swinging away and have an equal power to how they left the right side. I don't know of anybody that's been able to do that. You have to build up to that. But in time you can build up and then you can surpass, what you did on the right side from a power standpoint. So, again, what I noticed with Rylee is that she began to really hang on to the swinging away once she felt like her power had completely surpassed what it was on the right side. So I'll move that question down to Mads. Do you need Becky to repeat it?
I mean, I'm good. It's just,
Okay.
It definitely took me, like, I am, like, right now, like, I started on the left side, like, 3 years ago, and right now I'm getting, like, more comfortable with swinging away. So, like, it took me a while to just, because I'm right-handed, I guess, like, it's very awkward at first, like, getting into that position and swinging like that, and feeling comfortable with it is definitely very hard at first, especially when you don't have the power you do, like on the right side, especially
Yeah,
if you're right-handed.
exactly.
So, yeah.
T, you were a lot younger when you transitioned. So what do you have to add?
I don't remember when I like became comfortable, but I knew it took a couple of years of just like struggling to figure out what I knew I can do with certain situations. So
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. And just working with some slappers through my history of coaching is that there's this part that there's this hump that you have to get over because it's really difficult in the beginning to be successful. And it makes you want to doubt whether you should be even doing it. and then you kind of, your mind goes back and forth. And at some point, you really just have to commit to saying, you know what, I can do this, and I'm going to stay, and I'm going to work through all the problems that moving to the left has presented. So I think if you're committed to it, you know, you will get there, and you will eventually, you know, fall in love with the idea that you're on the left side and be glad that you made that change, you know, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get there. What was the second part of that, Becky?
What's your favorite situation to hit in? Or what's your favorite situation offensively?
Anybody jump in?
I think for me, like as a mostly power hitter, I really like high pressure situations. And I just think like it's just fun to be like in the moment, and like when the game's on the line to like be the one at the plate, like with the control, and you know, like you have the control to change like the whole game. And so I definitely think like those are fun.
I would say, I think it's more about like the game versus like a certain situation. Because like if it's like a championship game, or it's like a really close like semifinals, or you know, whatever it might be, like at a very like high intense, like high risk game, like those are just like my favorite situations to be in general. So yeah.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, I agree with both of them. Like the high pressure, like intense games, I think are the most fun, because you kind of got to just like instinct take over at that point, and it's fun at that point. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, what I hear in all three of you in that, and I think that's a really good question to honestly to end it with, is that you're all three, you know, you're obviously super competitive. Like the competition part of this game matters to y'all. And I think that feeds into your answers that you just gave, is that you love to compete. And obviously you want to contribute to your team's competing, and you love, you know, being in that moment. And I think that that's one of the reasons that you three are such successful softball players, is you do embrace those moments where the pressure is higher. And, you know, I think that high level players in general do love those types of moments and want to have those opportunities to change the game with the swing of the bat or whatever. So I think, again, that just feeds into all three of your natures, you know, to really want to compete. And I think that, you know, all three of you guys are amazing softball players. And I know, because I've, you know, known all of you for, you know, years, and I know the type of work that you guys put into your craft. Like the work ethic that you three guys exhibit is no joke. Like you put in a ton of work. And I think when you put in that much work, it gives you a sense of confidence that when you're in those big moments, that you have what it takes to come through, right? And doesn't mean you're going to come through, because all three of you guys, I'm sure, you know, a bit can think easily of a moment where you completely failed in that situation, but I'm sure you can also think of a moment where you didn't fail. And I think just the amount of work ethic that you guys have put you in a situation to where you can feel confident, you know, when you get into those high pressure moments. So, whew, with that being said, the hour just flew by. That was incredible. I mean, I know there's some questions left out there. I'm going to try to stick around and just answer those questions for you guys, even though we're going to cut the webinar. I'll try to get some of those answers. If it's not something I can answer, I'll try to get some to the girls and see if we can't get some of those answers back. But unfortunately, I wanted to keep this to an hour, so I really want to do that. First of all, girls, thank you guys for your time. I know that, you know, this game means a lot to you guys. I know that giving back, I know all three of you, and giving back is important to you guys, and you guys gave back to the game tonight, right? Because we have, you know, at one point nearly 50 people here learning about y'all's guys' journey and learning about what you do. And I think it's amazing that you guys gave back to the game tonight and gave back to the program. So thank all three of you very, very much. I wish you amazing high school seasons. I know, T, you're dealing with still some injury deals that you got to get through, but obviously when you get back on the field, you'll be, doing what you've always done, which is creating a lot of chaos and a lot of runs. So, Becky, appreciate you being the moderator, helping to set this up. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Hope to do some more of these. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Becky, you have anything?
Just if anybody has any ideas or questions on any other webinars you'd like to see, topics you'd like covered from a parent, athlete, or coach standpoint, don't hesitate to reach out so we can do more of these for you guys.
Okay, we're going to end it with one quick question for each three of you and just make it really short and sweet, because I know you could probably spend 30 minutes on this one question, but just name one thing, just one element that you're really excited about when you step on your new campus in college. So Mads, I'll start with you. University of Indiana, what's something that you're super excited about?
I don't know. I'm just excited to get there. Like, it's so pretty. I'm pumped, like coaches and everything. So I don't have a like specific thing like when I get there.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, fair enough. Yep. T, University of Florida, what's something that excites you about stepping onto the Florida campus for the first time as a Florida student athlete?
I would say probably like the colors, because like I like the orange and the blue, and those are very, very like poppy colored. I
Yeah,
haven't used those colors, so I don't know. It's just like just seeing all that orange and blue is gonna be
Yeah.
pretty cool.
makes you happy, makes you excited. And then Rylee, for you and your journey to UCLA, what's something that you're super excited about when you get to campus?
I think I'm really excited about just like being able to embrace like the culture of just like the program and like, just like the atmosphere and like being there in LA and like being on the field for the first time, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. All right. Well, ladies, thank you. Becky, thank you. Great job, everybody. We'll see y'all next on the next webinar. And again, to all of our attendees, thank you for participating. We really appreciate you guys, and y'all have a good rest of your Sunday evening. Bye-bye.